We are back, episode 44 of the CCHA Reporters Corner. I'm one half your co-host, Jared Rubado with the Bemidji Pioneer. With me is the better half, the co-host, Trent Singer from Sioux Falls Live. Trent, how we doing today?
Doing good, man. We are rolling out really, in a lot of ways, kind of a rebrand of this show. We got rid of that guy, Perry Lascaris. Finally.
Get him out of here.
Get him out of here. No, just kidding. Perry's been great. This show would not have been possible without everything Perry did and put into it. But we're kind of taking this under a new umbrella. We're with the Midwest Sports Plus umbrella now. We got a video version of this. It's an exciting time, Jared. We're just trying to find ways to sort of take this to another level. I feel like we've done kind of our part in trying to make this show what it is. I mean, this kind of started from an idea that you and I both had, I believe, mid to late summer a couple years ago. And, it's been really exciting. And I think, as we kind of go into this different era of it, it's cool to have this video component and give people an opportunity to see all the content that we have on Midwest Sports Plus, and then really maybe introduce some of those people who have been on that platform to some hockey, some college hockey.
Yeah. Like you said, this kind of started 2 summers ago when, Trent and I were looking for just a little bit more to, squeeze out of the fruit, for lack of a better phrase. But, and yeah, last year was really fun. I think we learned on the fly with a lot of it too, of, what works, what doesn't, kind of stuff like that. But I don't know about you, Trent, but, when I get a chance to talk to, a lot of parents of college hockey players, and especially a lot of, BSU fans and, Tech fans, I know a lot of them listen to this. The response has been awesome. I think a lot of people like the content of kind of getting a peek under the hood of a lot of the players and coaches we get to talk to. And, even when we bring on, media members, like I got a ton of feedback when we brought on, Brad Schlossman last year, and he could kind of just, you wind him up and he can just go and go and go about a lot of things too. And so, but now, I think we're taking it a little bit step further. And correct me if I'm wrong, but these will still be on the same podcast feed throughout the rest of this season, as well as our own podcast feed. And then starting next season, this will be under the CCHA Reporters Corner feed for audio only. But make sure to subscribe to Midwest Sports Plus for an audio version. You can find that all on. It's all connected within the Forum Communications news network and whatnot. So. But yeah, it's cool. And, I'd be remiss if we also didn't mention we have a producer now. Well, I'm more of a hands-on producer than Perry, who would just edit our stuff after. And that's not a slight at Perry either, because I do not envy the editing work that I had to make him do a handful of times for dropping profanity when I would screw something up. So, but Cordell Wright is, behind the scenes here, and I've already given him a boatload of things to edit out for the first one because my audio kept cutting out and stuff. So, but yeah, it's great. And, but today, and it's not just a new episode for us in this realm either. It's a new one in terms of our 44 episodes of the podcast, because we finally have a recurring guest, and our very first ever recurring guest in Alex Tracy. We brought on the Minnesota State senior goalie who was part of the Spengler Cup team. And we went for about an hour with Trace about, what his experience was like in Davos and everything that came with the U.S. Collegiate Selects, and how they really, for about 8 days, kind of took the hockey world by storm. I mean, for it being just a tournament that's, usually, secluded to Europe, I think, with the college aspect of it this year, it really started to make its way towards North America, and people were loving it. The Selects did an outstanding job. They finished as the runner-up to the host country, HC Davos. And, Trent, what did we get into with Trace about?
I mean, really just about this run. It was a pretty remarkable run. And, obviously Alex wasn't alone. He was joined by another CCHA guy and Augustana goalie Josh Kotai. And then obviously Minnesota Duluth goalie Adam Gayan was there as well. And Really just an impressive goalie room, but this team impressed me from kind of the jump. I thought they established some chemistry. They showed speed. They showed just a lot of grit out there against some pro players. And I think it caught the world by storm. It wasn't just here in the States. They became a bit of a fan favorite over there in Davos. They won their group. And got an automatic bid to go to the semifinals, where Alex Tracy made his first start in an elimination game. So we talked a little bit about that experience for Alex, both on the ice and away from the ice. I mean, he'd never been to Europe before. He's a Chicago native, obviously a senior there at Minnesota State, and reigning CCHA Player of the Year. And so Alex had some awesome perspective. I really, really loved his answer towards the end of this show when we asked him, just kind of years from now, what do you feel like you're going to take from this? And he's such a well-spoken guy. I can honestly, Jared, think of no better person to have on this show to kind of kick off this new era of the CCHA Reporters Corner than having Alex Tracy on. And then he had to turn around and go play some college hockey immediately after this thing, which is a pretty remarkable turnaround for a guy like Alex. So we talked a little bit about that whole experience, and of course we tried to keep this as short as we could. But Alex can talk, and we love guys who can talk like that. So it was cool. It was cool to just hear all the different perspectives from him. He's had some stories along the way, and really, really, really good episode to kind of get this thing started. And obviously, Minnesota State fans, you're going to love this one. Alex is always a joy to have on this show. Any show that he's been on. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. Anybody who's been here for the first time, welcome in. I mean, I hope you guys enjoy this content. There's 43 other episodes if you want to go back and hear all those as well. They're available on our site both at SiouxFallsLive.com. I believe they're available also at the BemidjiPioneer.com. So check that stuff out. And again, I want to reiterate what Jared said. Cordell puts in a lot of work for this stuff, and we can't thank him enough for that. He also produces a show here on Midwest Sports Plus, a daily show called Happy Hour with John Gaskins. Check that stuff out if you're here locally. But yeah, if you're here for the first time, we're glad to see you. We're glad you're here. And we're excited about this kind of new era that we're going into with this show. It's pretty exciting stuff.
So let's kick it over to our interview with Alex Tracy.
We are all being recorded here. We're back. We're working through some technical difficulties. This is our first episode here of this new kind of rebranded CCHA Reporters Corner. We figured there was nobody better to have on than a guy who was pretty busy over the break, a guest that we've had on earlier this season, one of our favorites. Alex Tracy is back on the show, Minnesota State's star goalie in a lot of ways. I mean, Alex, let's get right into it, man. Obviously, getting to be a part of this team, you're one of 25 players that were selected to be a part of this first ever U.S. Collegiate Selects team that went to the Spengler Cup and got to compete in that tournament in Davos, Switzerland. And for those who don't know, the Spengler Cup, it's the oldest hockey ice invitational tournament in the world. Alex, first off, man, just talk to me. What were those first few days like? With all 25 of those players coming together for the first time, and just walk me through a little bit about what that experience was like for you, man.
Yeah, first off, thanks for having me again. I know our first time being on, we had quite the conversation.
It was great.
It was awesome. Yeah, so I'm excited to be back.
We had our own technical difficulties that day too. So now it's Trent's turn when you do this a third time. Yeah.
It's good to be back and be hanging out with you guys. And it was an unbelievable experience. Right from finding out that I was invited to be a part of that team was just a surreal moment in of itself. And I had no idea what the Spengler Cup was. I had no idea the history behind it. So doing that research and kind of figuring out this is the first time they're ever sending a college hockey team, or at least like a college hockey all-star team over there, was super special, super honored to be a part of that. And then, the first couple of days were cool. We went to, we stayed a couple of nights in Boston, just being able to practice with each other, get to know the guys and start building those relationships. Because, that was kind of going to be the weak point per se for us going into the tournament is, just a bunch of college kids from all different schools being thrown together to compete in this tournament against professional teams who have been together for quite a while outside of, Team Canada. So it was definitely a special start to it. We went to a Bruins game when we were in Boston. We had a suite there, which was awesome. So that definitely helped with some team bonding before eventually heading overseas to go compete.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that Boston part for a bit. I mean, just talk about the energy at practices, those skates. You only get a handful of skates before you go, across the pond. Just what was that like? I'm sure it's a little bit of a change of pace from just the regular skates you do at Mankato, and just trying to gel with everybody out there.
Yeah, it was awesome. I think, given the circumstances, everyone had played their seasons up to that point, and going into what would have normally been a holiday break, you figured some guys would have had some heavy legs, or maybe it would have been a little slower pace. But no, I think just everyone being so amped up and excited to be a part of this experience. It was probably the most fast paced hockey that I've been a part of, like especially that first practice, guys were so ready to go. And so it was an awesome experience. I think there were quite a few pucks flying past my ear holes the first couple of days, getting used to, just that type of caliber shots from everybody. But yeah, it was awesome. I think just getting acclimated to the team in general at first, but then being able to mesh together as a group on the ice those first couple of days and figure out, because we weren't going to go into that tournament and beat teams by system, so it wasn't like we were sitting down going through O zone, neutral zone, D zone, penalty kill, power play. And while we did have those specific meetings, those short times trying to get into those systems, we knew that we were going to have to go over there and beat teams with our speed and our skill. And so just to see that on display those first couple of days in Boston was super cool, and something that definitely took me probably about halfway through the first practice to get used to, but something that I'm definitely very, very grateful for.
I can't remember if we asked you this before, but was this your first trip to Europe?
Yes. Yeah. This is my first time overseas in my life. So I was definitely super excited for it. A little anxious about it, but yeah,
Yeah.
something. It was awesome.
So I want to ask you, did you guys get a skate at the rink before your first game, or was your only practices in Boston before you got over there?
No, we had a couple skates. So it was a really cool setup over there. So they have the main rink, and then they have a practice rink, which is just next door, and then they have an outdoor facility as well.
Yes.
That's basically 4 rinks in a row, just like side by side by side. Which, like, every single day that we're there, the public is just out there skating. Like, there's kids, there's adults, like there's hockey games going on, just free skate. Like, it was super cool. But we were able to get, I believe, 2 practices in before we had our first game against Canada. And then the morning skate, or the morning of that first game, that was our first time practicing on the game ice. So we had a few opportunities to get out there and get used to the altitude, the size of the rink, and things like that before we got in there and started playing.
First impressions of the big sheet. Obviously, the pictures that you see on Twitter, Instagram are just insane, but to see it in person like that, just walk us through what's going through your head when you walk out of that tunnel for the first time.
Yeah, it was incredible. And, you kind of nailed it. But, as I mentioned before, I knew nothing about this tournament, knew nothing about the history of it. And so when I was doing my research and looking at some of the big names that play in the tournament, and just the crazy environment that everyone always talked about this tournament having, and just be able to watch some YouTube videos and things like that. And I remember initially being blown away just from watching it through a screen. But they don't do it justice at all to actually going there in person and being not only in the stands, but on the ice as well. It was one of the most surreal experiences ever. Just like, from even before we started playing, like the first time that we got to skate on it for the morning skate, when there was nobody in the stands, it was kind of like take a step back and look around. It's like, wow, like I can't believe that this is actually happening. And then ultimately, fast forwarding to the moment where I was able to play, like skating out, and especially when we were playing a team like HC Davos, where the entire rink is obviously on their side, but them being the host team, it was electric. It's like it really reminded me of like a European soccer, like a Premier League atmosphere or environment. Like every single whistle, every song that's playing, they have a different chant. They've got like these, I don't even know what it was. It was like this paper that was like folded up accordion style that they would smack on their other hand all throughout the game just to get chants going. It was super cool. It was an experience that I am glad I went into it kind of not knowing much about it, because I was really able to like take it in and then really not take it for granted. And that's something that I'll remember for the rest of my life.
Just you talk a little bit about the history and some of the prestige around that arena, and you can definitely sense it and feel it even just on the broadcast when I was watching. An amazing broadcast too, by the way. I mean, we could get into that. That'd be a whole topic of conversation for those of us who had to watch this from the States. It was a really well put together production, from the cameras on the refs' heads to the locker room speeches. You could hear everything Godowski's saying to these guys in between. For better or for worse.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, though, as you guys go into this, how did the coaching staff, I mean, was this a topic of conversation to sort of explain what this opportunity represented? Just especially with it being, the first ever collegiate all-star team to be able to compete in this. Was that a point of emphasis from this coaching staff?
Yeah, for sure. I think it was twofold. I think definitely just being able to go over how special of an opportunity it was, like you mentioned, and just, being the first team of this sort going and competing in this tournament was something I think we highlighted when we were in Boston, when we first got together in those first initial meetings that we had. But then when it was time, when we, even from that point on, but especially when we made the trip overseas and officially got to Switzerland and we were preparing to play that first game, like we, as a group, as a coaching staff, as a team, like as a group in general, like we were going over there to win the tournament, like, from the beginning. It wasn't just some experiment like, hey, let's go out there and do our best. This is a cool experience. Let's hope that we do well. Like, we understood how awesome it was that we were going over there to do it, and how grateful we are and how honored we were. But at the end of the day, like, we were going over there to compete, to win. And we knew the guys that we had in that locker room, and with the speed that we have, and considering some of the other teams and maybe some of the more veterans that they have, older guys, older legs, that we could really use that to our advantage and go out there and really shock the hockey world. Because I don't really think there were many people, if anyone at all, thinking that we had a chance to really be in the Spengler Cup final, let alone tied going into the third period. So yeah, we definitely had that appreciation mindset, I think, for the first couple of days. But then when we got over there, it was all business. We were trying to win.
Before we kind of get into how the games went, just talk about the dynamic with Josh Kotai and Adam Guyon. I mean, I don't know if you ever crossed paths with either of them. I know they're from two different countries too, and so I don't know if you ever played against them in junior or anything like that. But just what was it like meeting them and kind of sharing the goalie room a little bit for those 2 weeks?
Yeah, I'd never met either of them personally. Josh, obviously, I competed against him the last 2 years, and when we played in Augustana right before. I know that he still had another weekend of games, but that was right before my break. Just being able to have a really quick conversation with him in the handshake line of just like, hey, good weekend, like looking forward to the next couple of weeks or whatever.
Right.
That was really the extent of our communication up to that point. And then in terms of Adam, like, I had never met him before. We never crossed paths. I don't think we played Duluth my freshman year, but I believe he was still playing juniors. But two unbelievable human beings, and they're awesome goalies, but I'm super grateful for the relationships I was able to build with them off the ice. Like, we were we were hanging out a lot. Like, me and Josh went to there were things that we were doing around town. We had some downtime and just really getting to know each other, and so that was really special. And just being able to like learn from both of them as well, because each of us play a different style of game per se, where Josh just being a I guess we might play a little more similarly than me and him in terms of Adam, but
Mhm.
just seeing some of the ways that he thinks about and processes the game that we were able to talk about when we had like a mini goalie skate that did the game after that Adam played. So it was just me and him out there with our goalie coach, and so it was just really cool being able to pick both of their brains, and then just seeing the way that Adam goes about his games and his preparation, his focus, just like all the little things, like any little thing that he can give himself, a neck up or an advantage or something that will make him feel more prepared for the game. Like he's doing it. And so that was something that, kind of really opened my eyes and inspired me maybe to the way that I approach practices, games, or what that might look like. So yeah, they're unbelievable goalies, unbelievable humans. Two people that I'm really excited for, our relationship moving forward. Me and Josh have been texting even after the leaving that tournament as well, just seeing how each other's been doing with the travel and then the weekends. And so yeah, they're two awesome people, and definitely grateful for the time I was able to spend and be able to meet them officially.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk a little bit about this tournament, how it played out. Collegiate Selects lost to Team Canada 3-2 in the opening game. That was a game Josh started. You guys were in Group Catini, if I'm saying that right. And then obviously the following day, you guys go and knock off the tournament hosts, which I think was the big moment of this tournament that really kind of started to get some eyes on this. You guys, they won that game 5-3. And then, of course, the day after that, Davos 4-1 win over Canada. It clinched the group for the selects and sent them directly to the semis. And I think that's really when people were like, okay, what the hell's going on here? Suddenly this team is, not no expectations going in, and now they've won their group. It seemed like that's when everyone in Davos even started to kind of rally around this team too. You guys became a little bit of a fan favorite, and I'm curious to know, what was that like from your perspective to watch this team sort of become this overseas fan favorite? What was that like?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, so that first game that we played against Canada is actually where it started. I didn't dress that game, so I had the chance to watch it from the stands and just really be a part of the crowd and like that environment, that atmosphere. Because usually if I'm dressed, or especially even if I'm playing, like the stuff that's going on in the crowd, I kind of usually I miss a lot. Like I
Right.
tune out, whether it's just being so focused on what's going on inside the boards or whatever that may be. But so being able to be on the other side of the glass was cool, just because I was able to, just kind of be a part of that environment. And I don't know if it has to do with Canada. I think I remember reading something that going into that tournament, Canada and Davos were tied for the most amount of Spengler Cup championships. I could be wrong, but I think that's what I remember reading. And so I don't know if that played a little into it. But as soon as we started coming back into the game, because we went down, I think 3-0 in the second period of that game, then we scored two somewhat quick ones to make it 3-2. And that was when it started changing. The crowd, like, I took a video of it and sent it to my family, but there was USA chants ringing around the entire stadium. Like even that first game, we were only down by one. It was the third period, and the crowd was trying to get us into it to knock off Canada. So I think it might have started as an
Yeah.
anti-Canada reasoning for it, but then it just carried on to the rest of the tournament. I think that surprise aspect of the community not really knowing what to expect from us, and then for us to come out there with the kind of speed and the kind of tempo and the playmaking ability that we see in college hockey, that I think really took everyone by surprise, and I think everyone rallied around it. Someone was telling me at the end of the tournament that I believe our merchandise outside of the host team HC Davos was the first one to sell out, maybe the only one to sell out. So it was really cool just to see the whole community in general like rally around us as a group. And then it continued through the rest of the tournament. Like even when we were playing Davos, yes, the whole stadium was rooting for Davos, but anytime that our name got brought up or whatever it was, like we would at least get everyone would go nuts, or there would be a standing
a
ovation.
little bit of a bump there.
Yeah, I mean, even when we got knocked out in the final, they do whatever the post game ceremony, and we got 3 separate standing ovations from that whole crowd just every time that the announcer. I had no idea what the PA announcer was saying. It was all in German, I think, but it would just be gibberish, gibberish, gibberish. U.S. Collegiate Selects, and then everyone would stand up and start going nuts, and we had no idea what it was. It could have been the worst message ever. We're sitting here clapping everyone like, thank you. We have no idea, but yeah, it was really cool. And then the game that I played against Sparta Prague, like, since there was no investment for the host team, like, that was really, really cool because the entire building was on our side. So, like, especially when we scored those 2 back-to-back goals in the first period, like that, I had never heard a crowd pop like that in person in my life, or in terms of like when I was actually playing the game. So that was really cool. And we'd be walking around town, and we just had our USCS coats, and the amount of people that stopped us to say like, "Oh, Americans!" asking for pictures and things like. They had no idea who we were, and but they just saw the logo and they just knew the team. They're like, "Hey, you guys are awesome! The way that you guys play." So that was really cool, just to really mesh with the community in that aspect as well, on the hockey side, but also just out in public as well. They're like, anytime like people were staring us down, like we had something.
Yeah,
we were wearing a funny hat or something. So it was super cool to be a part of.
I think it's, we should put in perspective too, just how low the expectations were for the selects, like from the local, the local crowd and the local people. And Brad Schlossman tweeted this out, and this was translated from German, a German newspaper, that it was when the U.S. Collegiate Selects arrived to Davos on December 23rd, it was described as a mystery package. Nobody could really assess the qualities and relative strength of the student team. Eager students versus battle-hardened professionals was the prevailing view. But now, however, it is clear the college selection plays excellent, extremely fast hockey. What's more, the young North Americans are by no means pure amateurs who briefly step on the ice in the evening after a long day of studying. Like, they don't have a clue what college hockey is like. And it's so funny how, like, everybody watching from, North America is like, okay, let's kind of see how this goes. Like, we know what college hockey is like. Yeah. And everybody over there is like, what the hell is college hockey? Like, let's figure this out with everybody. Like, it was so unknown for, no matter what side of the spectrum you were on, but just the response of it all was just so cool to see.
Yeah. People over there is almost like they thought college hockey, the aspect of like going to school and playing hockey, was like, they almost had the idea that hockey for us was like beer league. Like, we go like we work 9 to 5, and then it's like, oh, we got time, we can go to the rink and play a little before bed. Like, no, they didn't understand that, like, college hockey, it's like we go all in for it. Like, our daily lives, like the way that we live, the way that we eat, the way that we sleep, like everything, it's all surrounded around developing, getting better, and playing hockey. And it's like, yes, while we are student athletes, that the student comes first, it's it's not as, I think they had this idea that there would be no time for hockey at all, with the aspect of it. And that's why we're so grateful for what the schools, the programs, and I know I can speak on behalf of Mankato, but like the way that they prepare us for life here, but also life after as well, in terms of like the schooling that we're doing, like being able to focus 100% on hockey, like while still being set up to succeed in school, is like something that we can never take for granted, because there's a ton of people who would want to be in the spots that we are and be able to do what we do. And so we're very grateful for that. And just to see, and that was something that I think really helped me gain even more gratitude, was just going overseas and seeing what people's perspective of college hockey was over there, and just to understand, like, hey, it actually is completely different than what they believe in their mind. Like, college hockey is like, the top of the top of like players playing in this country. So it was really cool to be a part of that. That article or whatever you read is awesome. But yeah, that really is kind of what, like, even when we lost to Canada that first game, like, people were congratulating us for only losing by one. Like, it was, like, oh, you guys look great. Like, get them tomorrow. Like, almost like kind of like a pat you on the head, like pity. It's like, no, like we're not sad. Like we're going to come here and win. We're not here to just go and be happy with playing and competing. Like we want to go out there and win this next game. And then, like you said, we win that game against Davos and win the bracket was pretty something we probably didn't see coming following the, being down 3-0 at one point in the first game to Canada. But, I think it was just a testament to our grit to fight back for those 2 goals, to at least only lose by 1 and then beat Davos. Then Davos did what they did to Canada. And which, by the way, it was crazy watching that. Like, I've never seen a team up by 3 pulling their goalie, trying to
wild.
Yeah, it was very strange. And then they almost scored. They had like a grade A chance slot. And I remember watching that in our hotel room and yeah, just like what is going on? Like what am I playing in right now?
I think like kind of the coolest thing about that, obviously with Canada playing Davos is like still not totally sure like what needs to happen, what you need to do to, win the bracket. And, I actually talked to Schloss about it and he said Jake Livanovich called him in the middle of the game, in the middle of the third period. He's like, hey, if anyone knows what we have to do to win this bracket, you'll know, like what score do they need to win by? What needs to happen? He's like, they just need to lose by 3 or something like that. He's like, okay, cool. And it was with like 5 minutes left in the game. Like, I think that just goes into like just how much unknown was about this from both ends of like, like you said, how many times have you seen a team pull its goalie up 3? Like,
yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, we were looking up like the rule book. We were trying to figure out whatever. There were plenty of arguments about like guys thinking that they had it figured out and then ended up being wrong. And it was definitely a gong show a couple times during that moment. But then once we figured it out, and then we knew it was true when we saw that play out where Davos actually did pull their goalie up by 3 because they were trying to get it to that 4 mark. So that was kind of the exclamation point on like, okay, we're right. We did figure it out. But then for that game to end the way that it did, and we got an extra day off, I think was huge for us. And, especially with the teams that we were playing there, as I mentioned before, kind of having some of the older guys on their team, like the more games that we can get them playing consecutively before playing us was going to play to our advantage. And, we already had the young legs, the speed that, I feel like we could have, if we had to play that many games in a row, we would have been fine. But then to give us those 2 days of rest and then going into it, I think really helped us in that semifinal game too.
Let's talk about your start. Obviously you get the big one too. Oh, I would imagine too, before that, going in, it had to have been a thing where each of you guys was going to get a game and then you'll figure it out from there. But you get the third and final of the first 3 starts against HC Prague or Sparta Prague. And let's start with just your reaction skating out on that ice. Obviously with that adrenaline, I'm sure pumping a little bit going into that first start. What's just going through your head and just kind of everything that goes into a game like that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we all knew we were going to be playing what each goalie was guaranteed a game going into the tournament. We didn't know until we got there. So the day before we played Canada, what games each guy was going to get. And so when I initially found out that I was going to be getting the third one, I'm like, oh boy, like the first elimination, like here we go, just getting right into it. I was a little nervous, kind of after hearing that, but then just having to wait so long to play that game, I think just the excitement really built up that by the time I stepped onto that ice, it was like I was so amped and so ready to go that I honestly wasn't even really nervous going into the game just because I was so excited, just watching the Canada game, watching the Davos game, watching the other games leading up to our semifinal game. Like I was so excited to be a part of that, once in a lifetime opportunity to play in this tournament for this team that, I was just excited to go out there and just play and compete. And so skating onto the ice for the first time and just the crowd going crazy, like the ovation that we got, like the welcome to the ice that we got was super cool. And it was they let us know right away that they were on our side for this game, which was super cool. So that by the time the puck dropped, it was like because we played, we played Canada the first game, Davos the next night, and then we had another 2 days off before we played that game. So it was quite a while before, it was finally my turn to go in there and compete. So I was ready to go, amped up, and then that puck dropped, and it was like, all right, here we go. Let's see what this is all about.
I think that's probably why they're like, yeah, we'll give the All-American the elimination game. Like, let's see if he has to go out there and prove it just one more time. But was there a moment in that game where it kind of hit you of like, okay, this is a little different than college hockey? Like, maybe it's a little faster. Obviously, the ice is bigger, stuff like that. Just talk about, at what point you realize like, hey, this is maybe a little bit different.
Yeah, I think I think a little bit there in the first period. It wasn't necessarily like being caught off guard. 'Cause I think that was kind of the benefit of waiting to play a little bit, was I got to see a lot of the game, watch a lot of the games, watch our team compete in those games, and be able to have some film per se to look at going into that game. Like Josh's game against Canada, like he went in there like not really seeing anything at all. Like that was the first game. I mean, I know there was a game that was played before us, but we're getting ready for our own game that I'm not sure anyone on our team watched that afternoon game. So, so I assume that was probably more of an adjustment for him, just not seeing anything about the tournament until that point. But so being able to see some of those games and then going into it, it definitely took a little bit of getting used to just how mistake free I feel like that those play, and just how structured they are, and the decisions that they make, like they make it with such pinpoint accuracy. Like they rarely miss any passes, like right on the tape. Like when they're shooting, they're hitting their spots. Like everything that they're doing is so like bang bang, and plays develop really quickly, I feel like, over there, or just at least in pro hockey in general, obviously, because just the skill level and the talent of all the guys playing on the ice, where it's like, I feel like sometimes, just in levels I've played growing up, whether it was juniors, maybe a little bit early on in college, where it's like, it might take a little bit of time for, something to develop, where these games like were so entertaining to watch and be a part of, just because like something was happening seemingly like every moment. Like a chance would happen on one end, and then bang, 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 it's already already on the other side of the ice, and another chance is already happening. We're just like the skill is on display, the structure. So it's something that, I think I had to get my feet underneath me a little bit those first couple minutes. And then once I felt the puck a little bit, made those first couple of saves, then it was, I was able to settle in a little bit. And, the bigger rink, I feel like, helped as well, where, it took a little, whether it was line rushes or in zone plays, where, I was able to be a little more reserved in my net, as opposed to chasing pucks, because the puck had a long way to travel if it was going from one side of the ice to the other side of the ice. So it gave me a little more time to get from point A to point B, get set, get squared, make some saves. And, there was definitely still some pucks that I was fighting off a little bit. And maybe it was a little bit nerves, maybe temperature of the game, but, some pucks that maybe usually stick to me were had to fight off a little bit, maybe swat to the corner or try to get a cover. But overall, it was an awesome experience, and something that, I aspire to play pro hockey after college. That's something that I'm definitely grateful for, that I was able to be a part of, and, kind of get that experience underneath my belt before, going and playing pro hockey after college.
Just talk about that feeling when, the zeros are on the clock, the final horn goes. Like, that's obviously, in the tournament respect, you're going to the championship, but for you personally, I mean, you got the weight of that elimination game, and just to come out on the other side of it with a win has to be like one of the best feelings of your hockey career.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was almost like time kind of froze for a little bit there. And I think how much stress went into like the leading up to that point of that final buzzer, I think played into it a little bit because, we were up by 2, but even when there was, 30 seconds left face off in our own zone, it's like we were all so, so zoned in and so focused on like, hey, it's not over until that buzzer goes off. And, I think they had a rush with about, I want to say 6 seconds left in the game where one of their guys was coming in through the neutral zone. And I remember like even still being on edge about that. Like here we go. Like gotta be locked in. Score with the seconds left and then somehow score again after that. But then, when that buzzer did go off, it was a surreal moment, just being able to like take a step back at my crease and, see my teammates in the corner of my eye coming to swarm me, and then the crowd and in general going nuts, and that realization settling in like, hey, wow, we went from being tournament nobodies to now going to play for a Spengler Cup championship tomorrow. And it was a surreal moment. And then being able to go into the locker room afterwards, celebrate it with the teammates, and then talk to family who were watching overseas. And it was the coolest experience of my life and something that I'm going to cherish forever.
Just from that first game on, Alex, the 3-2 loss all the way to the end, I can totally back up what you're saying. I mean, it was a wildly entertaining tournament from start to finish. Some really good quality hockey too, just competitive from start to finish every game. And I think that's kind of what the allure was, and it comes at a really unique time too, right? Like this holiday break, there's no eyes on college hockey. And even people who are watching professional hockey here in the States, there's not a lot of pro hockey that's happening during that time. So a lot of eyes, I feel like, were on the Spengler Cup, and a lot of people who probably didn't ever expect to be watching it caught their attention. But let's go, fast forward a little ahead, go to the championship game. It's New Year's Eve. The 17-time host champions, Davos, they rained on the parade a little bit. They came away with that 6-3 win, and still you guys got to do the stick taps and walk around that ice for the last time. And what a moment, for this team to go to Europe and truly compete with these professional teams. What was that like for you guys when you got the chance to skate the ice for the final time and really just take in the history of that arena?
Yeah, I think it was disappointing at first, just from the
right.
We had a lot of belief in that locker room. I think even before we had that first win against Davos, as I mentioned before, like we had belief that we can come in here and win this tournament. And to do what we did and then make it to the final game, and it was a tie game going into the third period, and we killed off a 4-minute penalty to start that third period. Like we had the momentum, and we had belief. Like we were very close to coming out and being champions of the tournament. And so, when that buzzer did go off and we ended up losing, there was some disappointment, of course. But then, as you mentioned, like being on the ice, being a part of that ceremony, and getting the ovation, the multiple ovations that we did from the crowd, and being able to skate around and give the salute was, I mean, it gave me chills. And I'm sure that mostly, if not all, of my teammates would say the same if you ask them. But it was surreal just seeing the amount of support, the amount of appreciation that we had from that community. Because quite frankly, going into the tournament, like I thought we were going to be hated. I thought everyone was going to be on us. Like, oh, who are these college kids? They're throwing together a team to play in this tournament. Like, I didn't know if they were going to be like taking offense to that or what it was. But it was a complete shock to me, just the amount of love that we were getting from everyone there, because it was a lot of people that traveled were the teams that were there, whether it was Davos being the host or Helsinki, Prague. Like I figure like all these teams had people come and travel like for this tournament. Like that's how big and renowned this tournament is. So to see the overwhelming amount and the outpouring of support that we got from that city was super cool. And just to put a nice cap on it. Yes, it would have been nice if we would have won, but to put a nice cap on it nonetheless was super cool. And then being able to, it was good that we were able to have some time afterwards too, to, really enjoy it, to soak it all in, the experience, because we didn't fly out until the next night. So we were able to enjoy each other's company, and then the next day. And be able to, see some things that maybe we weren't able to see when we were locked in for competing. So unbelievable experience, unbelievable tournament, and just came up just one leg short.
I was just about to ask too. I mean, I know you guys had that 2 day break. You had New Year's Eve in Davos too. I mean, just away from the rink, just what were those experiences like? I'm sure it's still gelling with the team in a lot of ways, and hanging out with new friends and stuff. But getting to experience local life and everything that came with it. Just how cool is that part of it?
It was really cool. During that break, some of those off days, like we took the gondolas up to the top of Mount Jakobshorn, I believe that's how you pronounce it. But I think it's like 9,000 feet of elevation to get up to the point there. But that was super cool. So it was like we took a gondola up to like the halfway point and then another one up to the peak. And then we were like walking on the side of this mountain to get to this one like restaurant area, which is like a bunch of picnic tables, music blasting, like the people over there are crazy. It is it is a party 24/7 there all the time. Like people standing on top of tables, jumping up and down, like listening to music. And then like, I don't know if they have any sense of danger over there, but as I mentioned, when we got off that second gondola, we're walking on the side of a mountain, and it's probably like the side of like two, or the size of two sidewalks like put together in terms of width. And on the other side of it, it's just like a drop. There's just like there's no telling what happens if you go down that side. And so, all of us were sticking to like the mountainside, like kind of waddling down like this half-mile walk to get to the restaurant. And these locals are flying on snowboards, like zigzagging around us. Like one of their skis are like barely touching the edge. And like my mind was blown. I'm like, they do not care at all. Like 12-year-old kids just like zipping past us. Like it's no big deal.
Oh my God.
What is going on? But I think it just goes to show the culture over there. Just like you grow up probably doing that all the time, going up the mountain, skiing and snowboarding, like whatever it is. And like everyone's walking around in snow gear, skiing gear. But yeah, so that was really cool to be a part of. And then there was like a really cool, so our hotel is basically on like the main strip that like where there's a bunch of restaurants, a bunch of stores. It leads right to the rink. It leads like the bottom of the mountain where you can take the gondolas up. So it has everything. So just being able to walk up and down that, like me and Josh they had this outdoor, it's like hockey mini golf. So it's a mini golf course, but you stand on the outside and like the holes are ice. And then the hole is just like dug in like a tiny little, barely where the puck.
Weird.
The puck's probably like this, like that big. And it was like super cool. It's something that I'd never thought was a thing in my life. But yeah, they rent you these like little hockey sticks, and yeah, you basically just each shot is a stroke. It's like they have like these little obstacles to get there. It's a mini golf course on ice. It's super cool. So even little things like that were super cool to be a part of, and got to see there was like a souvenir shop where I was able to get some stuff for my family. And so yeah, there was a lot of stuff that we did that was super cool to be a part of the culture. The food was awesome. I don't think I've ever had more bread and butter in my life. I think I had every single meal. We had duck the first night that we were there. I don't think I ever had duck in my life. So being able to try just these new things were super, super cool. And the entire experience as a whole, that's what really made it special. Is you could have taken the hockey aspect away, or you could have taken the scenic, the cultural side of it away and just had one or the other, and it still would have been the coolest experience of my life. Like that's how awesome all of it was together. Everything from like the views of the mountains, being on the mountains, the food, the culture, the hockey, the environment, the reception that the people had of us, the success that we had in the tournament. Like everything made it 11 out of 10 experience.
It just seemed like the team chemistry happened just so quickly, so organically. Even from that first game on, it was almost like, you guys got through that first period and you started to really see that offense sort of come to life too. How do you think that materialized so quickly? What do you give that a credit to?
I think just the fact that we were all, I mean, one, the fact that we all come from the same spot. We're all representing college hockey, and just the idea that we are the first team to be put together to do this, I think was something that we rallied around. But then I also think the fact that it was everyone's first time is that we were all in it together. Everyone from the coaches to the players to the staff that we had, like, yes, we had an idea, we had an itinerary, we had a structure of ways of what we were doing. But at the end of the day, like, it was all of our first times going through this experience. And like, we were all kind of, winging it per se. Like everything that we were doing was like, hey, this is the first time this is being done in these circumstances. So I think that was something that we really had to lean on each other. So from the first time that we got together in Boston and having those practices, to the travel, to getting acclimated to the time there, getting acclimated to the hockey there, like everything, we were going through it together, which I think is something that really we rallied around. And ultimately, at the end of the day, when we pulled that jersey to go play, is we knew we were representing college hockey and we had a job to do. We knew, as we mentioned before, like the reputation of what college hockey wasn't very high over here and overseas. So we knew that, hey, let's go and show them what college hockey is all about. And I think that was kind of the rally cry around our team that really helped us mesh together as a group off the ice, but then ultimately on the ice when we went and competed for the logo that was on the front.
I want to add too. I mean, you made a good point about, like, obviously you want to turn pro once your days in college are done, and you have 24 other kids on that team that I'm sure also have aspirations to play pro hockey, and while all 25 of you would love to play against each other with each other in the NHL someday, there's pro hockey outside of the NHL, and you can kind of, I'm sure you got to see under that hood a little bit, what pro hockey is like in Europe and in a country outside of the United States and Canada, and just how impactful could this have been, not only for you guys kind of understanding what pro hockey looks like, but even for them to say, hey, look, maybe taking in more Americans and Canadians who came through the college ranks. And, I look at a kid like Jake Livanovich, like the way he skates on that big sheet, like that kid can skate for days and days and days. And it's like he would fit in seamlessly, with one of those teams out there. And just how talk about just how that, it's dual purposed in that aspect of, kind of exposure.
Yeah, I think it benefits both sides. I think on the individual side, I think every single guy on our team learned something new or learned something that's going to help them moving forward in their career, whether it has something to do with the way that the game's played, the type of guys that are playing over there. Because I know I mentioned it before, but they're grown men. Like we went over there and it's, like just the way that these guys approach the game and the way that they prepare, the way that they take care of their bodies, the way that, all of those, like they're true, like grizzled professionals. And I think that's something that, me individually opened my eyes to just like, what it takes to have a long professional career, even a professional career at all. Is that it's a commitment in every aspect of your life, like not just when you show up to the rink, but all around, the way that you take care of yourself, the way that you treat people, the way that you do everything, it's going to bleed into hockey as well. And so I think everyone benefited in that way of, whether it's a glimpse forward to what they're going to be playing in the future, that like, hey, this is what I got to do, or this is what it's going to take. But then also I think there's, especially in my own brain, there's a lot of uncertainty of what pro looked like overseas and things like that. And so that was something that definitely opened my eyes. And then, yeah, as you mentioned, the dual purpose of it, I think it's definitely going to open a lot of eyes to teams, to programs, to clubs over there that like, hey, college hockey is the real deal. Because, especially I've always heard it that, hey, if you want to have a career overseas, it's going to help to play pro in America for a couple of seasons at least before going over there, so that they can see what you've got, what you're all about before they decide to make that investment or commitment to bring you overseas. Like now that this happened and, us going over there and being able to put on the show that we did, maybe we will see more college players getting that opportunity to go and play in some of those premier leagues right away, simply because they now have this idea that, hey, wait, these guys in college are being developed like really well and really quickly. And they are, they're professionals. They're coming over here and competing against guys who've been professionals for a long time. So I think it's a great thing for everyone who was on that team individually, but I think it's a great thing for college hockey in general moving forward. Just the exposure that it got to people all over the world that is going to help everyone's careers moving forward.
I mean, years from now, what do you this is maybe a little bit of a big picture question, but years from now, what you look back on this, what do you think you'll remember the most about just being a part of this experience and really being a part of this team?
I mean, I think just the opportunity, I would say. I was just so grateful to be there in the first place, and just like, if you would have told me a couple of years ago that, I mean, heck, even last year, that I would have had the opportunity to be a part of a group like this, going over to compete in a tournament like that, and to perform that the way that we did, and like, I wouldn't have believed it. Like, I would have been confused and been like, wait, what do you mean? Like, college hockey all-star team going over to a Swiss pro tournament? Like, what? Why? Like, what would that? So I think looking back on it, I'm just going to be so grateful that I was able to be a part of it and be able to meet the guys that I did, and to be able to, as I mentioned before, like, that was my first time going overseas, like, and just to be able to see that part of the world and to be a part of that culture, and to play in a game that had those kind of stakes. I'm just going to be very, very grateful for that experience, and moving forward through the rest of this season, ultimately the rest of my career, and just knowing that that it's not just that tournament as well. That's everything. Just being able to play this game is a gift, and I think that's something that I can lose sight of a lot. When days get hard or games aren't going the way that we want to, or when it seems like the world might be ending because we lose a couple of games or things aren't going the way that I personally want them with my own performance. It's like, that was something that was really humbling, was going over there and being a part and practicing with those guys and playing with that team. And, like, on the flip side of that too, like, being away from my team here for that long, like, really even grew my appreciation and my love for the brothers that I have here. That's like, hey, by the end of it, like, I was really missing, like, being here in Mankato. Like, I was loving and I was appreciating, and I was soaking it all in, like, being in Switzerland and that side of the world, competing in that tournament. But, like, just understanding how great that I have it here as well. It's, I think humility and gratitude are the two words that really kind of came out from this tournament that I'm going to carry for the rest of the season, the rest of my career, the rest of my life. And just that every day is a gift. Every day I get to come to the rink and be with these guys and experience things like this is, something that I can never take for granted.
Only Alex Tracy, folks. Only Alex. That's some great perspective, sir.
Mavs fans are going to eat that up. That's crazy. They're just they're going to eat up every single bit of that, and rightfully so. One more though before we let you go, but quick turnaround back to the States too. I mean, what was getting back to the U.S.? Obviously, you guys had a tournament to play in. Just talk about the travel, getting ready to hop back into college hockey, and everything that kind of came with it.
Yeah, so it's pretty insane. I don't know. I mean, there was no chance I was not going to play on that Friday. Like, if I have, kind of like what I mentioned, like missing the guys and missing, like, being grateful for any opportunity that I get to play, and especially knowing it's my senior year and things like that. Like, if I had the opportunity to get there on time and to play that game, like, I was going to go to battle with my guys. And so let's see, we played on the 2nd. So on the 1st is when we traveled back. So it was 5:30 p.m. local time in Switzerland when we departed the airport there. And it was a 7.5 hour flight. So Boston, when we got to Boston, local time was 8 p.m., I want to say. And so by the time we got off the plane, through customs, got our stuff, got to the hotel, unpacked, got everything from the hotel that we were able to leave our stuff in when we went to Switzerland in the first place. Got that back into our rooms and then packed into my bag for my flight the next day. It was probably around 11:30 at night. And my flight on the next morning was at 5:15 a.m. So I got 3.5 hours of sleep that night on the first. I woke up at 3 a.m, went to the airport, had a flight, 2.5 hour flight from Boston to Chicago. So I got to Chicago at like 7 a.m. local time. Had a 3-hour layover there, 3-hour layover there. So at 9:50 was my second flight from Chicago to Palm Springs. That was a 3.5 hour flight. So I got to Palm Springs at noon local time. And so by the time I got off the plane, grabbed my bags, there was one of the friends of the program was in a car waiting for me. So I loaded my stuff in. They had food waiting for me in the car. So I ate. It was a 30-minute drive to the rink. So I got in the car at 12:30, got to the rink at 1, was unloading my stuff. And about 10 minutes later is when my teammates came in on the bus to the rink. And then we had our team meeting about 20 minutes later. And then it was right into, warm-ups and then the game. So it was,
oh my God,
quite a lot of travel. So I think it was 14 and a half or some hours of travel, and leading up to that point, 3 hours of sleep. And then I went and played, and I felt fine going into the game. And then probably about halfway through the second period is when it all kind of started hitting me, and kind of just had to battle through the last half of that game. And unfortunately we came up short against Lowell, but then went about like the rest of the day, recovered, got to that's the thing. They'd been there for a couple of days already. Yeah. And so I went right from the airport to the rink, then played. So then I had all my bags. We got to the hotel, and it wasn't even a hotel. It was like a whole village almost. Like there was different buildings. Like they were telling me, oh, my room's 612. Like I'm in building number 6. Like we had like a couple of meeting rooms, but it was almost like we were staying on like a campus. Like that's how big it was. Like they weren't like normal.
Wow.
So I had no idea where I was going. Like guys had to show me how to get to my room. And so yeah, it was pretty. That day didn't really feel real. And then I went to bed, woke up the next morning, and that was when everything caught up to me. I woke up with the flu, and so that was the reason I missed the game after. But so I was bedridden for pretty much that entire day, and but luckily it was only a 24-hour bug, because the next day I felt great, which was nice, because I was able to actually enjoy some of the Palm Springs weather, after being in Switzerland for 8 days. So I was able to play a little bit of golf the next day, and my family was there too. So my team left on that Sunday. They had a flight, but Mankato let me stay an extra day with my family. So I flew out with them on Monday morning back to Chicago because my car was there, and then drove to Mankato yesterday.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I think we looked it up. We asked, I don't know how good ChatGPT is at math, but I was curious. So I did from when I left after our exhibition against Switzerland in Mankato, how many total miles it was to go from Mankato to Chicago to Boston to Zurich to Davos, back to Zurich to Boston to Chicago to Palm Springs to Chicago to Mankato. And it was just under 12,000 miles.
Oh, yeah, man.
In the last 2 weeks. So, yeah, I thought I was going to get out of it unscathed, but, the flu had to come and get me for a day. But now I'm good to go. We got practice here in a couple of hours, and I'm ready to get back into some CCHA play.
Last one. What was it like telling all the boys on the team? I'm sure you had to field hundreds of questions about what it was like and everything that came with it. And did they get a chance to watch any of it?
Yeah, so they got to watch the game that I played, which is cool because it was before they boarded their. Or no, because I played on. Let's see. So the final was on the 31st.
The final was 31st. You played the 30th. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they were, I believe they were already they were either on their way to Palm Springs or they were already here, but it was not during their flight. So they had the opportunity to watch, which was really cool. They were making fun of me for my delay a game penalty for out of the trapezoid. So that was funny to hear from them. They told us about the rules, but in Boston. And so like, I didn't play for another 7 days later. So it just completely went out of my brain. And so I went and stopped the puck and, I got this 35-year-old dude with a beard and a mustache, like skating throttle at me. So I'm like, all right, I'm taking this behind the net. And then the funny thing is it took a minute to register. So I grab it, I'm above the goal line, and then I start skating backwards behind the net. And then all of a sudden the ref blows the whistle and I'm like, did someone just take a penalty when we were on the power play? Like, what are we doing? And so I'm like, what idiot took a penalty in the offensive zone when the puck was already down here anyway? And then the ref was pointing at me. He's like, no, you playing it out. And I'm like, oh shoot. Then it all started coming. I look over to my left and I see the trapezoid and I'm like, oh no. And then so I put my hand up to the bench, to Guy over there. I'm like, hey, sorry, my bad. The great thing is he had no idea about that rule either. So it was so it was our goalie guy.
College coach, man.
So it was our goalie guy who Evan Morehouse, he was the one who told us about that trapezoid rule at Boston. And so I don't know if Guy had any idea about it because we get into the locker room afterwards. And so we had already won. So we were able to laugh about it. And so going into the championship game, he was talking about hey, just so you guys know, for the future, we learned a couple things. Don't play out of the trapezoid. There was something about you can't change. You can't call a timeout after an icing. So he was like, things I didn't know. So just so you guys know, going to the championship game, you can't do that. So that penalty is on me. So I'm like, oh, thank goodness. All right, yeah. I don't want to take it.
I got one more question for you too, because I know goalies can be a little finicky, but you had to put the advertisement over your blocker. Did that feel weird at all? Just an extra layer on it? It looks ugly.
Josh, before you go any further, Josh suited up Sunday night. He didn't play either game this weekend, but he still had his on his blocker too. We pointed that out at one point during the game. The guys are hard to get off.
No, yeah, they were, because I gave them to my equipment manager. He was able to get the first one off pretty easily, but the second one, it took them a good 30 minutes. One of our student workers, Noah, he's the man. He was working for so long trying. I gave him my block. We went out, we played sewer, we warmed up, come back in for the start of the game, and he's still sitting here trying to get little pieces off. But no, I didn't notice it at all, on the blocker, at least during the game. The worst part were the shells they made us wear. I've never worn pants before. And so trying to get that into a good spot where it wasn't rolling down into my knee pad was a little difficult. But that's the thing. I had plenty of days to figure it out leading up to the game that I played. So I was able to finally get into a good spot. So that by the time the game happened, there was no issues with it. But yeah, the advertisements were definitely wild, just being a walking billboard out there. But
yeah. All right, I think that's all of the questions I got, Trent. Do you got any more left in the tank?
No, that's great.
Yeah. That's so cool that you guys got to do that, man. I mean, just from our perspective, I was at World Juniors and the first day of the tournament, there were a few of us up in the press box that had it up on the computer. But I think by your game on the 30th, it was everybody there that came from a college hockey sphere, had it up. And I got up at 4:45 on New Year's Eve because I had to see how it ended. you guys absolutely crushed it. And, congratulations with everything. It was really, really cool to watch.
Thank you. Yeah, they got some cool things over there that I would love to see maybe college hockey throw in there. Like one, just the mic'd up refs would be awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone knew like what, and I feel like it'd be to the benefit of the refs too. Like, I feel like if you understand, okay, this was their thought process, this is what they saw, this is the reason why they had to make this call. Yeah, people are obviously still going to get upset, but like I feel like it'd be a little more okay, like that makes more sense. And like especially with like no one knows what goalie interference is nowadays.
I was going to say the first game, even when the refs were talking about the goalie interference, I said, "Oh look, they're talking about it, and they still don't know what it means." Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, at least it gives like some, some leeway at least a little bit there. Yeah. But and then I don't know if you guys noticed it, but they had like a double goal line. So they had the goal line, and then there was another red line behind it. So that if the puck touched it, it mathematically, like just based on the size of the puck, it would 100% have to mean that the puck crossed the goal line.
Cool.
That's the difference between it.
It came in play on a goal that Josh gave up, I believe, in the first game.
Yeah, that they were looking at. But like, I still don't know how they called that a goal. I was looking at it on the review. Like, it looked like it
was still close.
Got it time, yeah.
It was still really close, but they must have seen it definitively, like a space in between that. But then they may have had the goalie interference call early on in that game too. There was some there. It was interesting though to see from, like you said, from that perspective, seeing the goalie cameras, and then of course the camera in the locker room, which would never fly.
No.
We're good.
We're already running a thin line when we have hot mics for refs when they have to go talk to Strand or Sartori in a game. Like, maybe let's just keep them out of the locker room for a bit. Yeah. Hot mics cut once they get to the player benches. Just leave that part out. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can live without the camera in the locker room.
Okay, cracking me up though. There were some guys in that locker room that were cracking me up. Every time Polkamp would walk out, he was just making some sort of noise. It was like a different noise every time, just trying to get the boys fired up.
It was.
He's
cool
a meatball.
There are some clowns on that. They're just so funny, like cracking me up all week. So yeah, it was cool to get to know them all, like because about the hockey side of everyone, but to get to know the personality side of it too was really interesting.
Absolutely. Tracy, that's all we got. Thanks again for hopping on. You're our first ever recurring guest too, I believe. So this is
it's an honor.
Better, man. We love chatting with you, Alex. We appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's a blast.
All right. Once again, thank you to Alex Tracy for joining the show, and thank you to our producer, Cordell Wright. To watch the show and to see clips and highlights from this episode with Alex Tracy, head on over to Midwest Sports Plus, the home of the CCHA Reporters Corner. For an audio-only version, subscribe to the CCHA Reporters Corner on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Follow us on Twitter at Trent Singer and at Jared Rubado BP. You can check out our work at BemidjiPioneer.com and SiouxFallsLab.com.